Good morning, everyone. Wasn't last night inspiring? I just every year we go to those award banquets, and I just it never ceases to amaze me what our faculty do. Um, First item on our agenda this morning is the board chair report, and so let me start on that. I've focused during my time as board chair and in these board chair reports on alternative sources of revenue. We had an excellent retreat in January on development and fundraising. In April, Executive Vice President Hank Foley made a wonderful presentation about technology transfer and opportunities we have to enhance our revenues from the intellectual property that we produce. We obviously need to continue to focus on these alternative revenue sources and create other innovative ways to increase revenue streams from non-state and non-tuition sources, and I'm confident that we will. But at this juncture, at this critical juncture in our state's history, I feel compelled to not talk about alternative sources of revenue, but one of our primary sources of revenue, and that's state appropriations. Friends, I have to tell you that the current state of affairs in Jefferson City troubles me deeply, and I believe it should trouble all Missourians who care about education in our state. As you know, the legislature passed tax cuts in this past session totaling over $1 billion. 620 million of those tax cuts were passed early in the session and have now become law over the governor's veto. An additional 776 million in tax cuts was passed by the legislature, and those tax cuts have been vetoed by the governor as well. But those vetoes are subject to a potential veto override by the legislature, which some legislators have stated publicly they are working to accomplish. On an annualized basis, 425 million out of that 776 million of the recent tax cuts would come directly out of state revenue beginning this next fiscal year. 351 million would come out of local revenues. Whether you take a long-term or a short-term perspective, there can be no reasonable debate that these enormous tax cuts jeopardize the ability of the state to adequately fund the University of Missouri system and each of our extraordinary campuses, and also our ability to provide affordable, high-quality education to our 75,000 plus students today, as well as generations of students to come. I strongly believe that when we as curators and leaders of the University of Missouri see issues emerge that can jeopardize our ability to do what we've been entrusted to do, that we have a responsibility to speak up. Not necessarily to oppose all tax cuts, and certainly not to disparage those who support them. But we do need to make clear the repercussions of those tax cuts to the University of Missouri, and that any potential short-term benefits of tax cuts, whether they be political, economic, or otherwise, must be carefully and thoughtfully weighed against the long-term benefits of investing those funds in the education of our citizens. As Benjamin Franklin long ago recognized, an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. I strongly believe that there is no better way to invest our limited state resources than in education. The long-term health of our state economy is directly tied to the quality of its workforce and its education. What we do in educating our state's workforce is critical to bringing new businesses to Missouri, retaining the ones we already have, and helping to create jobs. We have a land-grant mission to serve the state in this critical area and all of its 6 million citizens. But we simply cannot do that if adequate support from the state is not available. We have been doing our part. As I mentioned, we are working hard to expand alternative sources of revenue without raising tuition. With regard to tuition, we've had the lowest average annual increase in tuition and fees over the past 5 years among all of the 8 states that are contiguous to Missouri, while MU's average annual cost of tuition and fees is well below the average annual cost in tuition and fees for schools in the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, and all AAU public and private universities. Also, we've made great strides on the cost side of the equation. We are far more efficient and cost-effective at educating our students than we were when Wayne, Dave, and I joined the board back in 2009. One significant indicator of reduction in costs during recent years is operating expenditures per degree awarded. Over the past 5 years, real expenditures per degree awarded has declined from $73,633 in fiscal year 2008 to $64,843 in fiscal year 2013. This represents more than a 10% reduction in cost per degree in inflation-adjusted terms. As you know, the university has taken on many cost-saving initiatives to achieve this reduction, such as a strategic sourcing, saving more than $81.6 million over the past 5 years. Is there more that we can do to become more efficient? Certainly. And under President Wolf's leadership and his strategic planning process, I'm confident that we will continue to squeeze excess costs and inefficiencies out of our budget. But there is simply no way, after almost a decade of consistent cost cutting, to save enough to make up for the dramatic declines in state funding that would occur if the most recent round of tax cuts are allowed to become law. So it really comes down to a choice. Do we continue to opt for tax cuts, which some contend, based on economic theory, may provide short-term benefits to our economy? Or do we take a longer view and invest in higher education, which will boost the economy both in the short and the long run? The boost to our economy from investing in higher education is not based on economic theory. It's a demonstrated fact. For example, take a look at the 50-50 capital projects that are currently pending on each of our campuses. As you know, 50% of funding for those projects has been provided by private donors across the state. These shovel-ready projects would create hundreds of new jobs, which would immediately stimulate our economy and increase tax revenues to our state and local governments. Those benefits are not theoretical, but certain. At the same time, these projects would allow us to educate a sufficient number of STEM graduates to fill the highly technical jobs of the future. Studies show that we will need to fill 57,000 of those jobs in Missouri by the year 2020. If we don't have a sufficient number of our citizens who are educated in the STEM disciplines, we are at jeopardy of employers leaving our state and taking those high-paying jobs to a state that does. But I'm sad to say that the funding for these projects, which are critical to our mission, and many other portions of our budget, are now in jeopardy due to the most recent round of tax cuts recently passed in Jefferson City. In my view, it is vitally important that all of us, that we do whatever is within our power to do to encourage our fellow Missouri citizens in the legislature not to override the governor's veto of these tax cuts. It's not an overstatement to say that the future of our state depends upon it. What is most needed in this state right now, I believe, is a conversation about what our priorities as a state should be. Not next year, not the year after, but over the long term. Do we want our University of Missouri flagship campus here in Columbia to continue to be a member of the prestigious AAU and one of the top universities in the country? To do so, we need to attract more research and top quality faculty. That takes resources. Do we want to train more doctors for rural Missouri? Do we want to keep tuition affordable? Do we need more lab space to educate more STEM graduates for the jobs of the future? At the same time, do we want our Raleigh campus to continue to be what it has become, one of the top engineering schools in the country and an extraordinary value for its students? Do we want UMSL to maintain its lofty national rankings, including third in the nation among the nation's public research universities with fewer than 15 doctoral programs, and its other nationally ranked academic programs, such as counselor education, information systems, criminal justice, and international business, among others? And do we want UMKC to continue its decades of excellence in many areas, including healthcare, with its quality School of Medicine and its School of Dentistry, the only dental school in Missouri, and its in entrepreneurship through the highly respected Block School of Management? All of these things, as well as many other priorities set forth in our strategic plans, will inevitably boost not only our state's economy, but also our state's standard of living and help it make it the best possible place to live, work, and raise a family. But without adequate state support, these things simply won't happen. These are our priorities. Does the state share these priorities? If so, let's have a dialogue about an appropriate tax policy to fund these priorities. Part of that dialogue needs to reflect reality. And that reality is that we are currently 46th in total state revenue per capita out of 50 states, and 45th in total state revenue as a percentage of personal income. Do we really want or need to go even lower than that? If tax reform needs to be part of the dialogue, let's talk about tax reform. But what we need to avoid are tax cuts simply for the sake of tax cuts, without any recognition of the impact those tax cuts on our ability to fund our collective priorities. Kansas has been there, done that, and is now over $300 million in the hole because of it, and that number is growing. As a result, Kansas has had to slash its funding of higher education and substantially and recently increased tuition. In addition, Moody's in April lowered the state of Kansas credit rating, citing tax cuts and sluggish economic growth compared with its peers. In May, Moody's lowered KU's credit rating for the same reason. Is that what we want in Missouri? Really? We as a state should not let Kansas, of all states, drag us into a race to the bottom. As we stand here on the 175th anniversary of the founding of our system's flagship campus, let us take responsibility for doing whatever it takes to move the state and the university we love in the direction it needs to go, upward and onward toward an even better future. Our fellow citizens deserve no less. That is my board chairman's. Thank you. That's my board chairman's report. I'm not taking any questions. The next item on the agenda is the Information Technology Annual Report. Gary, thank you.
Sure, we don't want to schedule something else. I don't know if I feel comfortable following that. This is listed as an annual report, but I'm going to do my best to be through in about 15 minutes. So it'd probably be more appropriately titled an update to give you some insights as to what we've been doing in IT across the system over the past year and some of the projects that we have on our current work list. Well, there. You've seen this bubble map in many contexts. It gives you an indication of the activities that are involved with the University of Missouri system and its related organizations and enterprises. It's always a good map to show, to remind people of the pervasive nature that technology plays in supporting all of these activities. The University of Missouri IT group is increasingly functioning as a single organization, drawing strengths and leadership from all of the different business units across the state, and including the hospital here in Columbia. We also need to remind you folks, since I don't get to talk to you but about once a year, that we truly are integrally involved in all of the services and offerings of the university, teaching and learning, the online learning, the retention initiatives that are currently underway, supporting research using technology tools, libraries, the desktop support, telecommunications, patient care in our hospitals. There's little that we don't touch in one way or another. Also a reminder, this is the map of current members within the MORENET organization, and you see the distribution of sites across the entire state where we are providing direct services for education, healthcare, and local government. MORENET also, back up one slide there. Moornet also runs the state backbone upon which the university operates. It provides the fiber optic backbone that connects the 4 campuses, and as well as the state data center in Jefferson City. I did want to point out that there is a proposal currently underway where Moornet is proposing to extend their backbone into the southeast portion of the state, specifically to pick up or provide access, high bandwidth broadband, to portions of the state that are currently underserved in terms of their ability to have access to internet. This proposed route, it will add about 1,800 miles or so to Moornet's backbone, and will put it in contact with up to about 200 new customers in the K-12 space. We hope to be able to report on that later in this year. As far as research and innovation, this year we were counted among a small group of elite institutions who have been designated as innovative campus sites for using technologies involving 100 gigabit Ethernet connectivity, a science DMZ, which provides a new generation of security protocols that allows for extremely high bandwidth to be used in a secure fashion, and also using next generation networking capabilities that's referred to as software defined networking. That's happening here on the Columbia campus, but the benefits are extending beyond to the other 3 campuses in the system. And we now have the unique circumstance of being, as far as I know, the only university where Internet 2 is actually running through our data center. Their backbone is running through our data center here in Columbia. So you've heard a lot about strategic plans, and you will continue to. This is a high-level summary of the systems plan. And it's important to note that we have, IT has specific responsibilities for delivering on these plans, particularly the first 2, leveraging resources and fostering collaborations and best practices across the campuses. This is a map that Hank Foley's team put together that's a high-level summary of the systems plan, the mission statement here in the center, and the themes, and then the levers in this circle, and then the individual actions out here on the edges. And if you look at this from the context of where we have an explicit responsibility for delivering on these plans, you see that IT is intimately involved in a great number of those. President Wolf in April reported on what we have been doing to try to continue to manage costs and increase efficiencies of operations, and you heard that again this morning from Chairman Downing. A few of these are particularly in the wheelhouse for IT, the Operational Excellence Initiative, which we continue to work with, and plans that we have to continue to reduce cost by finding more efficient ways to do our work. The opportunities that he called out in April were listed on this slide: automation, process reengineering, managing reward systems, and that includes the IT systems that are behind these benefits plans, and managing IT and ERP costs sustainably. Over the past year, we've reached a new level of maturity in how we're working as a system in the IT space. We have now formed a strategic project management office, and we take the needs that are coming in from all of the campuses, all of the functional silos, and we put them together into an aggregate view that allows us to prioritize across the entirety of our portfolio and do those things that are most important to us to accomplish our strategic goals. And we've had great participation and collaboration from all the vice presidents, all the campuses, in managing an approach to being able to carry on this portfolio to the benefit of the overall system. 2 projects that I want to spend the rest of my time with you on. One is one that is strictly related to the IT organizations on the 4 campuses. We started doing a study about the opportunities to reduce our expense and complexity of our data center operations a year or so ago. And we have moved forward and are now ready to implement on that plan. We have 4 sub-projects that I'll detail on the next slide for you. we have decided to have a primary data center for administrative purposes here in Columbia and a secondary site to be located in Kansas City. This will be inside of our existing facilities on the campuses. But we are also looking at a long-term strategic plan for data centers that might include corporate and institutional partnerships or other partnerships with other higher eds or government agencies, and also the possibilities to develop a research platform for specific kinds of work. The 4 sub-projects that we will start working on immediately and we'll have some deliverables on by the end of this summer include security, which is to standardize and consolidate, create centers of excellence across the 4 campuses, simplify and standardize our network design, and to address some of our current needs in terms of data safety, disaster recovery, business continuity, standardizing and deploying standards for servers and storage, and then having a comprehensive service catalog of all IT services across all the campuses that we can provide without having unnecessary redundancy or duplication, and reducing the overall expense of delivering those services to our campus constituents. The other major project that you've heard some about, and you will be hearing more about, is on our ERP, our Enterprise Resource Planning project. We've been at this for a long time. 17 years ago, in December of '97, your predecessors approved the university going forward as an early adopter for enterprise resource planning and approved the deployment of PeopleSoft as our platform for HR, student, and finance. It's taken us a long time. This gives you the high-level history of all 3 modules. Student here, which started in August of 2000 when we actually got to a point of being able to deploy it. Human resources and finances, and it's continued. We're not completed with deploying student until 2008. We had to do the 4 campuses separately. And financials and HR have continued to be improved over time. So what this slide does, I don't intend for you to understand all these acronyms. Understand that things that are in red represent major upgrades or uplifts in productivity on the student side. Things in purple reflect major upgrades and productivity enhancements in finance. And similarly, the green shows major uplifts and improvements in functionality in the HR space. Back in 2010, we did our shared services benchmark under President Forsey, and we adopted an approach to our work from that point on, which incorporates this operational excellence initiative. And so we've continued to work against doing things the right way, the most efficient way, for a number of years now. So why are we changing? Well, we are an early adopter. We adopted the use of tools that were originally developed back in the 80s and were not particularly mature at the time that we deployed them. So what I've got on these next few slides is kind of a high-level schematic of our current state. This is the finance module in PeopleSoft. This stuff in the center here in orange are the actual sub-modules of just the finance. The things on the outside represent other systems that we have to operate in order to get all of the work done in the finance world. Some of them are internal to us here, and some of them are external or third-party solutions that we've had to adopt because they weren't available within the delivered package. All these arrows show how data flows among all those different systems. So you have a lot of integration going on just inside the finance space, and remember that finance has to talk to HR and student. Here's HR, same situation. A lot of interactions going on, a lot of integrations with different data systems. Why is this important? Well, every time we want to upgrade these, we have to make sure that we don't break any of these linkages so that the data retains its integrity over time, and we have a hard time finding a time when we can go in and actually make these changes without disrupting the business of the university. It gets really interesting when we look at student. A lot of the applications that have developed in the cloud, so to speak, over the last few years have been targeted at specific kinds of functional applications. Can I give a student an early alert if they're starting to fall down in a class? Do we have a way to give them career service advisory as part of their experience while they're here on one of our campuses? So we've got a huge number of applications that we have to run in addition to the core, either internally or those that are being used by integration with outside entities, people that are building software that we've decided to adopt. So then to make it a little bit worse, we're not really running one student system, we're running 4. So all of these integrations have to occur across all of these individual instances of student that we run, because we didn't deploy a single instance of student, we deployed 4. So what does that mean? Well, we have an incredibly difficult and complex time managing this, this installation of software. These are the number of modifications we've made to the system over time. In finance, HR, and student, each one of these represents an exception that has to be managed through an upgrade process in order for us to get through to the other side. So what's been happening is that the cost of managing this system has continued to grow. This is the aggregate cost of just what we spend centrally on maintaining these administrative systems. Up to about this current fiscal year, about $17 million. That's money out of central IT that is being spent to maintain and upgrade these systems. It doesn't count the money that's being spent on each of the campuses. In Indiana, they did a review of student systems a few years ago. Central IT was spending $5 million a year on student systems. The outlying campuses were spending $95 million. So there's a huge incremental increase in expense in terms of people, software solutions that are deployed locally to support local optimizations that we don't actually have a good insight into right now, or a plan for how to fix it. We do know that over the last few years, we've seen a 14% per annum growth rate in the central costs. And we know that that's not a sustainable option for us going forward. So the chancellors and the other leadership has decided that we need to evaluate our current situation and develop a plan specifically for how we're going to manage the administrative systems going forward. And these are the alternatives that we have. These are the ones that are available to any institution. And it should be noted that as far as I can tell, every institution in the country is doing a similar kind of review. A lot of them are just now coming off of mainframe systems, so they're having to do this for the first time. We happen to be an early adopter, so we have the opportunity to leverage our insight and our expertise in these systems to improve them, to optimize them, to become more efficient and less costly. So we have developed an approach with working with the functional leadership on all the campuses and the chancellors that is going to put to front of mind the notion that we have to make very thoughtful decisions about what we decide to deploy going forward. And that the right decision makers need to be in the room at the time any of these modifications are considered. We need to be considering those processes that might be nice to have, but not really considered to be a differentiator in terms of a campus's attractiveness to a student or a parent. We need to be thinking much more about a global approach to these ERP management solutions, the concept of we, not me, accepting solutions that are already built into systems, the idea of using vanilla as an opportunity to reduce complexity and cost, streamline and standardize as much as we possibly can, and avoid unnecessary local optimization, and bring the right decision makers to the table before actions get taken. So over the next 7 months, we are going to evaluate our ERP at the request of the chancellors, so that at the end of the calendar year, we will have a report which will give you some detail as to what our current systems inventory is across the university. We'll know what our current ERP cost of ownership is, including those costs being borne at the campus, and we'll have developed a strategy for how we're going to move forward to improve our circumstance and improve the value of our systems and reduce the rate of increase in cost. As I indicated, we're started in May, and we should have a report out by the end of the calendar year with a proposal to formally move forward with the optimization soon to follow after the first of the year. Betsy talked to you yesterday about what's going on in HR, unifying the processes, taking advantage of things like the electronic personal action form to reduce the amount of transactional work. HR is very mature in terms of the extent to which they've come together and started to collaborate, simplifying their policies, standardizing approaches. They're going to take the next few months to look further at what's going to be possible to simplify that environment as they go through the changes associated with implementation of the global grading system and also the new benefits approach. Tom talked to you yesterday about the review that they've done on finance. So they've taken the same approach as the overall ERP approach, trying to move towards an aspirational goal of having a zero modification implementation of finance when they do the upgrade next summer. So we're leveraging actions that were already underway in finance and HR, and the activities that are taking place in the ERP study are going to be differentially enhanced as it relates to our ability to focus on the student section, which is the most complicated of the three. Pull all that together into a coherent approach and plan, and then deliver that to you soon after the first of the calendar year. Here's the campus solutions approach. Review the business reasons that were originally drove the decision to utilize 4 instances instead of 1. Find high-level process workflows and functional requirements. Why are we where we are? There's lots of good reasons for how we did this when we did it. There's no accusations there. It's just a matter of fact that we were dealing with old technology. We didn't know what we didn't know at the time, and the technology itself wasn't capable of giving us what we needed in many cases. So, in summary, for the IT current portfolio, we've got a number of high-level projects that we're focusing on, all targeted at efficiency, managing budget, reducing cost, increasing value. In student, we've got all of these projects which are related to the retention initiative that was started a year ago, and also includes the MyVita, or the Faculty Accomplishment System replacement that was approved by the provost last year. And then purely in the UMIT space, the data center consolidation, the ERP study, upgrading some other required systems that we have across the university. And this is a graphical representation of our current high-level enterprise portfolio, just to kind of let you know the overall scope of what we're working on. So I apologize for my voice. I have managed to contract the summer crud, but I didn't get into a coughing spasm, so I'm pleased with myself for that purpose. Any questions?
You plan on utilizing Oracle consulting to help in the transition?
We have Oracle consultants that are going to be brought in specifically for finance, for HR, and for student. We have general consultants that are available to do a lot of the data gathering across the university, but we want to have specific expertise in the Oracle tools. The fact of the matter is we have some things that we already own that we are not currently using. And in some cases, they didn't exist at the time we initially deployed, so we need to learn what those new functionalities are. And in order to do that, we're going to need to get some Oracle expertise. Other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Next item on our agenda this morning is the University of Missouri Strategic Plan Highlights. Chancellor Lofton.
Chairman, members of the board, thank you. Just a couple of disclaimers up front. This is a no-frills report, so we're going to just look at the facts here and talk through fairly rapidly what we've done and what we're planning to do in the coming fiscal year based on our plan. I invite your questions both during and after, of course. Let me begin with some numbers. 175. This is the 175th anniversary of the University of Missouri's founding, and we're coming back to this in a moment, I think, at your request to recognize it more formally. This is also the 100th anniversary of extension, another milestone for this system. And this is day 140 for me. So every day is precious. This is just a very high-level first look at where we have come in the course of this fiscal year. The plan put in place and modified during the course of the year called for expenditures of $55 million. We believe by the end of the fiscal year, June 30th, we'll have spent $54 million working on this plan. What's coming in the next few weeks for us, already beginning in fact, is first of all, measuring our results. We had a plan, we executed it as best we could, and we're going to measure now how well that worked out. We can't do it all right this second because we're not quite done yet. In particular, some areas like enrollment for the fall semester, we won't know the true answer until the early part of September. But we do know some things, and we'll be able to measure those and report back to you appropriately as we go forward. We also want to be sure that our next year's plan for 15 is going to be based on the outcomes of this plan. We want to make it better and better going forward. So, to begin with, we have learned a lot during the last year. Two primary things I want to communicate to you are these. First of all, one of the elements of our fiscal 14 plan was to hire up to 100 non-tenure track faculty that would be specifically engaged in research. This derived, I believe, from Vice Chancellor Duncan's initiatives and didn't work, didn't happen. We went through a process. I believe we had, 2 or 3, Ken, come forward and proposals to hire 2 or 3 faculty of this type overall. This was an abject failure as far as stimulating what we hoped we'd stimulate. So this is gone. We're going to find a better way to do this. Secondly, Mizzou Advantage has been here for a while. It predated our current operating plan development, and I've decided to begin to fold this into the plan so we don't have 2 things going on in parallel, but one thing going on, which will incorporate the very best elements of Mizzou Advantage. So by the time we get further into the FY15 plan, you may hear the term Mizzou Advantage occasionally used, but will not be referring to a separate parallel activity compared to what we're doing within our operating plan itself. Those are 2 major changes we see going forward. These are the results of Lever 2.1 during the current fiscal year. We've made 9 key faculty hires who are already physically in place here. One of them is Elizabeth Parks, nutrition. She is a truly world-class scholar who has really not simply a home only in her department of nutrition, but she also has connections to medicine and to agriculture, CAFNR. So she really has 3 different college homes, if you will, even though she's tenured and physically tied to one department in one of our colleges. This is the model we're going to see going forward. Hiring a great faculty member who collaborates, who spans multiple colleges and schools in their scope of activity. We must give them a tenure home, obviously, but we'll be able to have them shared among a number of schools and colleges here. That's where the future is for us, we believe, going forward. We have 6 other very high-performing faculty already identified and on tap to join us here in the fall. So these are the fruits now of investments over the last year plus in terms of faculty hiring. Let me call just one in particular. John Boyer has joined us now. John comes from Delaware. Thank you, Hank Foley, for that. We appreciate that. John's a member of the National Academy of Sciences, a plant scientist of extraordinary note, and he's already moved his membership affiliation for the academy status from Delaware to us. This gave us a 12.5% increase in one time in our metric for AAU standing. which tells you we weren't very big to begin with. We had 8 academy members in place here. John's our 9th. But again, we continue to look forward to adding additional faculty from the academies to our faculty here, but also more importantly, promoting the faculty we have already in place here to be recognized by membership in one of the academies. That's the key to success. Not hiring somebody else who comes in here who's made their name elsewhere, but to make their name here at Mizzou and have them recognized while they're here. So we will continue looking for opportunities to bring here existing members of the academies, but we also want to focus heavily on being able to promote our own key faculty into this level of recognition. In terms of lever 2.3, internally, without new state support, without essential tuition increases at all, we were able to devote over $10 million to recognizing our faculty and our staff's efforts. So this was totally done through a meritorious process, which has been in place for quite some time and occurred over the course of the last year. In addition to this, we dedicated $1.7 million plus additional $0.5 million in benefits to identifying a bit over 200 extraordinary faculty who directly contribute to our AAU metrics. This was a separate process done independently of our regular performance assessments here. And it occurred in the mid-year, about the February timeframe in terms of the effect of this increase. In addition to this, we devoted internal resources to recognizing promotions from associate to full, and assistant to associate professor, and other changes of that nature of over $600,000, recognizing these people's advancement in their career pathways. And because of the reformulation of how we classify our staff system-wide, we made adjustments of over almost $300,000 in terms of staff wages and salaries based on the new ranges provided to us by HR. So these were all done through internal reallocations of dollars here at Mizzou. Lever 1.2 was our effort to work hard in terms of advancing our ability to teach better. We have great faculty here. We've had a substantial increase in our number of students without increasing our faculty count. So how do you amplify your faculty is the question you have to ask yourself. We've done this through beginning a systematic redesign of courses that take advantage of technology and different techniques of teaching to be able to have our faculty do more with less, basically. When you put 10 more seats in a classroom, that gets 10 more bodies there, but you don't create more time for the evaluative mechanisms to occur. So the key bottleneck for us is faculty time and their ability to give feedback to their students. Again, you can talk to 10 more people with no extra cost, but evaluating 10 more papers, 10 more tests takes more time. And so we have to find ways to amplify our faculty's ability to use the time we're given, which we can't change, to let them do more. And that's what this is all about, basically. So 15 courses were redesigned in this process. All of these were addressing large numbers of students in general. So we touched 13,000 students through these redesigned courses, and that totals to 40,000 plus student credit hours we affected here. The main thing we've learned is that student outcomes have been improved, and the faculty see this as a positive step forward. They are, in fact, embracing this kind of change. And we'll continue to work systematically through our curriculum doing these kinds of things, of course, working with the larger courses first where the impact is greater, down to the smaller classes over time. Lever 4.1 is our attempt to obtain more revenues by attracting students here for different reasons. We have found by simply market studies where the trends are in terms of the demand for certain kinds of programs. And in particular, during this fiscal year, we were able to put in place in the School of Health Professions occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech-language pathology. And these were in part addressing specific sense of demand on the part of students who would come here if these programs were in place. So $1.7 million was devoted to expanding class sizes and addressing the obvious student demand here, and we're seeing that enrollment increase based on that. We're continuing to invest in 2 other areas I want to mention to you in particular: sports venue management highly popular program. Brand new major enrolls 79. Bachelor of Health Science, again, over 1,200 enrollments there, showing you the demand for these kind of programs, which you didn't have here in place beforehand. So these cost money, but they'll return more money in terms of revenues attached to them than we've invested up front in them. So again, we're investing strategically in areas we think mark the areas of highest demand going forward for the student populations we want to attract here to Mizzou. Lever 3.1, facilities. This continues, as you heard yesterday, to be a challenge for us in so many ways. The three in particular we were able to bring online during the current fiscal year, Gwen Hall, a totally refurbished building, as Gary described to you yesterday. This investment on our parts, though, did save us $9.2 million in deferred maintenance off the books by doing Gwen Hall the way we did it. And Gary went through yesterday with you a complete description of how that was accomplished, basically. Mizzou North, of course, is the old Ellis Fischel. That's been a challenging building, but rather than leaving it vacant and deteriorating, we did put money into it to use it for swing space primarily right now and for strategic utilization beyond the use of it for just putting people into what we do Jesse Hall and places like that. We see this as a place for expansion, for being able to have flexible space to address particular needs that may be short-term to medium-term or even long-term in some cases. It is not contiguous with the campus we're on right now, but it's not that far away. And for people who don't need to be physically here on the campus, it gives us an alternative in terms of siting them without building brand new structures here on the campus with limited space available to us. We also, of course, have refurbished rather the building for the former Department of Conservation at 1110 South College. And again, this was done specifically to provide more academic space for us here in the core campus. We've also been able to find internal monies to increase our maintenance and rehabilitation budget by almost $600,000 specifically to address the growth of the campus space. We've targeted a 1% of the cost, replace the cost of the built campus historically, which is too low, but that's the best we could do to this date. And this reflects simply the ongoing growth of the value of our built campus here and the need for us to continue to renovate it. Utilities, of course, continue to be a challenge for us as well. Prices go up. We have more square footage to be able to take care of, and so the budget for that area has been increased by almost $700,000, over $700,000 as well. Lever 3.2 in research. These are investments in necessary facilities used by a large number of faculty. Where we can't justify the cost for simply one faculty group, we provide a university facility that Dr. Foley's office manages for us, which serves the entire campus community and beyond. So we invested in this fiscal year $750K in upgrading our NMR system and almost $2 million in putting in place a large animal MRI, which is an extraordinary resource for investigations involving not simply the vet school, but animal science, medicine, and beyond. And finally, the library was given additional allocation as well to continue to deal with the rapidly rising cost of digital media. Mostly what we do today are pay subscriptions. Our faculty need access to the very best publications out there, and we do so digitally, but the folks who control that continue to jack the price up. This is a worldwide problem. It's not a problem just in the United States or in Missouri, and we're looking nationally and internationally for better ways to do this. So this is a challenge for us. We hope to be able to find a better solution for over time than just throwing money at. Let's catch it myself here. There we go. This is an area that Dr. Foley has had great impact on. We've worked hard to encourage the faculty to be aggressive, interfacing with industry, as well as being aggressive in terms of moving their discoveries into practical use. What Hank's been able to accomplish over his time here, short time here, is to be able to change our policies about this, to give our faculty greater autonomy in terms of how they work this, to make the process work much faster, and particularly to open up the opportunities for us to take equity shares in either new ventures or existing companies as a result of the transfer of our discoveries to them for commercialization. We see this as part of the future. Being able to revenue streams up, we don't have right now. We get about $7 to $8 million a year currently at Mizzou for licensing our intellectual property. That is not that much money in our overall context of things. But we got $40 million in one shot by selling a company, our stake in the company that was founded by faculty here and the university together several years ago. That's the kind of thing we want to do more of. We want to be able to have equity stakes in companies that take our discoveries to market and commercialize those well. We then can extract value from that through an IPO or a sale to be able to get us the revenue we need to continue our work. So we see this as a fourth leg, in addition to private support, tuition, and state support, to be able to augment our revenue streams, diversify them, and give us more strength going forward. Lever 4.2, we continue to evolve our online strategies here as well. A couple of years ago, beginning of FY13, we decided to invest $10 million over 4 years in developing a greater repertoire of online course offerings. This year, in fact, we have our first fully online bachelor's degree available to our students, and we have from that many more courses available for all students. Students primarily use these now as undergraduates as a flexibility matter. They can schedule now their time better by having one, perhaps there are 4 or 5 courses they're taking here online, so they can work a part-time job, they can be involved in student activities without having a difficult schedule process to go through. We see this demand growing and growing over time, while we also have totally off-campus students growing in numbers as well year by year. This is all being self-funded by the revenues from these courses. So this $10 million is not externally coming in from the other parts of the university, but being generated internally by the actual revenues from the online courses themselves. Now, looking ahead to FY15, there's still uncertainty. The chairman did a good job outlining that uncertainty a few moments ago. We just don't know what's going to happen right now. So we have to go forward, but do so with a reasonable amount of understanding of the risk involved in doing that. So here's our first cut at looking forward to the future. In lever 1.3, we continue to look at ways to recruit and retain the very best students here at Mizzou. And so we've, over the last year, been engaged in a very in-depth look at our scholarship policies for undergraduates here, and we're now investing $5.5 million in this next fiscal year that will go into attracting even better students to Mizzou in general. The results we see already preliminarily now for fall of this year is another 200 students coming to us who have ACT scores of 30 or above. That is an increase of 25% of that category year to year. So the scholarship monies being directed there have a direct output. You can see it very clearly. By putting the money there, you see the students coming. So we're competing successfully right now for kids who had other alternatives, better scholarships elsewhere, and now we're at the same game with some of our peers. So this is a good thing for us to see those students come on board and enrich our campus community. We will continue refining this and going forward, but you see the idea here is being able to do things we can measure direct outputs from very, very quickly. Lever 2.1 involves future faculty hiring. I've worked carefully with Provost Dean and also Vice Chancellor Foley to identify key areas here based on the strengths Mizzou already has, to invest additional dollars into hiring faculty who will even take us to higher levels in these particular areas right now. You see in front of you here a list with approximate numbers of faculty hires. And keep in mind what I said earlier, these are not going to be faculty hired to be in a very narrow silo. They're being hired specifically. And they'll be placed in a particular school or college, but hired specifically because of their collaborative skills already demonstrated. So we see 5 faculty in the medical area in general. They may be sitting in vet medicine, health professions, nursing, medicine itself, even in CAFNR. But they will be contributing to medical research and education here at Mizzou. 2 in the health sciences besides that, 4 in the physical sciences, 4 in the life sciences with a focus there on plant science, which is an extraordinary strength here at Mizzou, 4 in engineering, and 1 in journalism. And let me dive one layer below this to give you a little bit more sense of the breadth and depth we have here. Looking at these same areas here broken down more carefully, And again, understand we're not going to be bound by this as a straitjacket. When opportunities arise, we will cash in on those opportunities. If you find a unique faculty person you can hire, and this just happened the other day, we will go after them if they fit reasonably well our model. We're not trying to straitjacket our faculty, our department chairs, and our deans in terms of going after the very best people they can find who will move the needle here at Mizzou. But just as an example, if you look at medical health sciences, look down to the third one right there, health outcome medical informatics. We've just hired a person, we think. We're negotiating right now with this person from a university elsewhere who has an extraordinary record. And were he to come here, he would bring several $1 million of federal funding with him and be an immediate impact on us here at Mizzou. And he fits nicely into the niches we've created, not only in medicine and health sciences, but across on the right-hand column here of big data. He's a guy that mines data in the health professions looking at outcomes. And this is the future of healthcare, learning from your data. We know that Cerner, one of our partners in Kansas City, has access to millions, tens of millions of patient records. If we can find the way to connect to those with big data approaches, we can learn a lot more about how these people can be better cared for and have shorter stays in hospitals, better outcomes over time. And this is really the whole direction of healthcare we believe we're moving in nationally today. We've got to look ahead and take risk here, but go after people who can make an impact in these particular kinds of areas. So I'm very pleased. We just had a fortuitous circumstance arise here, and we saw Ken, Hank, and I the opportunity to go forward and back up this particular dean and this hire here for a person we believe will be a very special addition to our faculty. And we could go through any more like that in here. We're concerned about big data. This is an area where you want to have the mixture of people who understand the computer science of it, who can write the software, but more importantly, perhaps, people who actually use it, who have the data in genetics, for example, in healthcare, astrophysics, you name it. There's a whole lot of areas out there that really capture big data. Look at Walmart. Whenever you transact at Walmart, data is acquired. And they use that very scientifically to make their investments in inventory, in selection in their stores, all kinds of things that affect your ability to be marketed to successfully. We think business has a big role to play here too, because business is doing this today and doing it without all the right benefits of the right science, the right engineering behind it. So we have a core already of faculty in place here who are successful. We have many application areas, including journalism, where this can be an extraordinarily powerful tool. And we see this as a great way for us to invest in these faculty. Now, I've indicated 20 faculty hires here over a period of time. We just don't know, first of all, for sure about state investments right now, as the chairman said earlier. We have to worry about that. We know some faculty in this category can't be moved that quickly. And it's not just their salary, folks. That may be the least of it. For most of these people, they're going to need significant startup packages, and we'll probably hire 3 to 4 to 5 faculty to be with them in junior levels, be part of their core team. We may have them already here, but maybe not. So an investment in one person could be millions of dollars because of not just their salary alone, which is the least of it, but a laboratory, equipment, junior faculty, postdoctoral fellows, and so on, to be able to give them the wherewithal to immediately make an impact here at Mizzou and beyond Mizzou on the world. So we see this as an exciting moment in the history of the university to go forward in. Going forward, two more here quickly. Lever 2.3 in faculty and staff compensation. We are looking again at an internal reallocation this year, not derived from state funds, to provide the resources to address merit increases for our faculty and staff here at the same rough level we did last year, if it all works out as we see right now. This is still a work in progress, quite frankly. Other actions is we will do again what we did in mid-year this year, early in the year we hope, with some new funding, be able to go in and identify again a few hundred faculty who've made a significant impact on our AAU metrics, moving us forward here, and to recognize them over and above the generic approach to merit increases for our entire faculty. And finally, of course, we'll do the usual support internally for faculty merit, faculty promotion increases as well. So that brings me to the conclusion of my remarks. I'll be happy to take any questions for any time the chairman wants to provide.
What is your strategy around the funding necessary for big data, for example, in these other areas that you talked about? Are you thinking about private public partnerships with specific targets of businesses in mind to have endowed chairs, to wide range of financial arrangements with them in order to get the funding necessary?
There are all sorts of things you have to do here. We will certainly do several things. We hope to be able to invest any new state funding that comes forward to us in these areas, of course. We will do our 2% reallocation here again this fiscal year coming up to give us internal resources as well. But what you've said is very important. I've already mentioned one particular partnership with a healthcare provider based in Kansas City that may provide us access to huge amounts of data. And along with that would come, we would hope, funding to be able to address their needs. We can learn a lot, but also give them back what they need to have as well. So we'll definitely want to not only have data access, but also their funding in place to make this into something they can value and benefit from as well to return on their investment. So we see that as one major thing. Almost all these areas provide opportunities for finding a private partner or more than one partner who will be able not only to give you access to data that lets you exercise your science, but also give you the ability to be funded by them to give them back useful, measurable kinds of results they can employ themselves. So we see this as a mixture of things, both internal funding, state funding if available, but also the ability to work hard with the private sector. Thank you.
Chancellor, I'd like to echo what Dave Bradley said yesterday, and I think I'm probably preaching to the choir and talking to you about this, but I think as you continue to modify your strategic plan year to year and update it, I think the research reactor that we have here on this campus is a unique opportunity to, as Dave said, not only expand what it's doing now, but get into the patient treatment area, which could provide enormous benefits to at least cancer patients and other types of patients around the world, because I know we have a very unique opportunity for that here. So I know you have limited resources, but I would encourage you to consider that as part of your strategic plan.
We didn't discuss here in this forum anyway the ideas that we talked about, but again, we are looking for other sources of money outside of Missouri to be able to assist us in continuing to evolve our reactor capability. The reactor itself is fine, in great shape, a great resource. The issue is really what's around it. And so right now, it's more an industrial space, as you saw yesterday in your tour. We need to provide on-site patient care facilities to be able to do the kinds of research and treatments that are possible by being very close to the site where you produce a very short-lived isotope. Again, you saw the data yesterday. The most commonly used isotope today has a several-day half-life. We don't even try to use other isotopes sometimes because they live so short a time. And to be able to have the patient right next to the place where they're produced gives you the chance to do something you can't do anywhere else in the world. And that, again, amplifies the unique things that Mizzou has available to it. So we see not only, again, being able to treat patients using more current therapies, but also allow research to occur where it can occur now for extremely short-lived isotopes that may only last for minutes after you produce them in the reactor, but could be utilized if the patient were right there. And that's what we can't do right this minute. So we're trying to find the external resources to be able to augment the reactor facilities along those lines itself. Thank you.
One of the things that really intrigued me about you when we first had the opportunity to meet were your knowledge of the intelligence community. And obviously there's tremendous funding that's there and available. What kind of collaboration and partnership do you see in the intelligence community that would be of tremendous value in solving some of these issues and some of the other issues that you talked about regarding funding?
Thanks for the question, Stuart. I can't say a lot specifically about that in a forum like this, but let me say this. There are two areas of strong interest. One is big data. What you saw up there applies very much so to the entire community.
I didn't mean to do that.
We will certainly go after that. But another area I did not mention, but is very relevant. Every time I meet with some of these agencies in Washington, they are crying out for people. They need people who are trained in analytics, who actually have come to places like Missouri, for example, and worked on data sets like the healthcare industry provides or genetics provides, and can take that knowledge and skill and move that into their curtained world to be able to apply it there. So every time I meet with these folks, they want the same thing. They want a master's degree program, for example, that allows one of their current employees to come here or through a distance learning techniques, pick up these skills and employ them within an agency. They want to hire new people that we graduate. So I've already begun to work through that process in the right way, which is not trivial, as you well know. I'm a member of NSHEB, which is the National Security Higher Education Advisory Board, which reports directly to the FBI and the CIA leadership, and this gives me the entree into that specifically. But beyond those two, there are many more agencies who have the same exact needs here. But again, I put people very much into the equation because they hunger for people that they can bring to us or hire from us who can do this. So we really have the opportunity, I think, to create a professional master's program here that brings in the necessary knowledge base, but experiences working on open and unclassified data sets here that they can take back with them. And I think that's going to be a key to our success, because once our people are inside the organization, they become our champions as well, and you understand that. But we have opportunities for research right now. And we have a SCIF here, which is not a common thing on a college campus, that gives us the place we can do these kinds of things locally here with a proper degree of security.
Is it envisioned that the 20 signature hires will be a net gain to the departments, incrementally increasing?
Yes, these are over and above replacement faculty positions.
And if there are other schools or departments that have signature hiring opportunities that nevertheless fit within the strategic mission, would it be exclusive to these, or would it be open to others that would be viewed in a similar category?
I tried to say it earlier, I'll say it again, opportunities always come along. We don't want to be so bound up by these particular things I put on paper for you here that we can't do something different. So we will take advantage of that. And again, this hire I mentioned a moment ago, we're almost consummating now in health outcomes, was not expected. It was one of those things that just came along fortuitously. But we saw it as an opportunity to bring somebody right into the mainstream of this particular hiring process and get it done in a very short period of time. And again, it's not done yet, so I can't say much more about it, but I'm hoping this will be consummated over the next few days and we can announce this more publicly. But this is what we don't want to preclude. It's the ability to take advantage of these unique opportunities that come along. And again, I'm happy to work with any of the deans across the entire campus if they believe they can fit reasonably well into this pattern here. There's no college or school on this campus that can't play. No. Now, we listed things like medicine. That's not meant to say that's School of Medicine. It is that, but it's much more. And so I'm trying to make these categories captioned in ways that do not limit us in any way to where these people might sit. We want them to be broadly based and not feel like they are owned by only one particular unit here on the campus. This campus is really good about that. When I came here, I was startled to see how much collaboration this campus has been able to achieve, kind of from the ground up, the grassroots up, not top down, but bottom up. And that's a very big testimony to Mizzou's strength. We're trying now to build on that strength by this strategy of being able to top down now fund these kinds of hires here that are not going to be bound to any one specific unit. We're still sort of tied into our historic tenure and citing mechanisms here, but for senior faculty, that is not nearly as critical as who they work with. The key to recruitment is not so much the money in the hand only, it's who is here already. Who can their colleagues be? People want to work with the best people who complement them. They don't want to be by themselves. And so bringing people here built on our current strengths is the most appropriate strategy for us to do, because we certainly have great people here. And when someone outside sees us and understands who's already in place here and sees their niche where they can fit complementarily into this particular mix we have, we can make that hire happen. Money is necessary, but not necessarily the number one criterion to make the right person come here. So again, we want to be flexible. Plans are critical and important for us to move forward, but plans should not bind you and keep you from doing the right thing at the right moment. That's the key to success, I think, here.
Thank you very much, Chancellor.
Thank you.
Very educational. Our next item on our agenda this morning is our consent agenda. Hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to review the consent agenda, and I would entertain a motion to approve our consent agenda.
Second.
Cindy?
Curator Bradley,
Yes.
Curator Covington, Curator Cups,
Yes.
Curator Downey,
Yes.
Curator Good,
Aye.
Curator Henriksen,
Yes.
Curator Phillips,
Yes.
Curator Stewart.
Aye.
All votes in favor.
Next item is information item, good and welfare of the board.
Chairman, I'd like to make a couple of remarks. First, let me congratulate you on your remarks this morning. They were excellent, hit the nail on the head, something that needed to be said, and hopefully that will reach out and get some attention. Following that, I would add that, and I think most of us know this state has never had a great history of good tax policy. And it's gotten worse, and some of the things you talked about this morning are part of that. There are opportunities that can be lost too that can be hurtful to higher education and education in general. We have a ballot issue on the August ballot to increase the sales tax by 0.75%. It was percent at one time, but it's now going on at 0.75%. I have talked about this for several years in opposition to it. Not that I'm in opposition to increasing sales tax, but if we increase sales tax, it ought to go to general revenue. It ought to be used in a big part for education, perhaps for healthcare and some other things. We certainly have highway funding problems in the state of Missouri and work that needs to be done. But in Missouri and in almost all states and nationally with the federal tax and revenue that goes to roads, it's a user-based tax that has always worked best, and that's what ought to be used here. Now, how did we get to a general sales tax on everybody, great of which would be paid for people that don't even own or drive automobiles? Well, they did polling, and nothing polled very well, and this probably polled, not the best English in the world, but less worse than anything else. And that's where they went. And as you all noticed, the governor put it on the ballot in August, which is not where the proponents wanted it, and that's good. And the governor's come out against it. And a lot of people come out against it, a lot of different organizations, some quietly, some not so quietly, that see this as a big mistake in, one, how we fund highways and who pays for them and who doesn't pay for them, which is an important part, and where we need to use what revenue is available. The sales tax is well into the 8% plus in most of the state. With another 3/4, it will be up pushing 10%, in some cases over 10%. We'll probably not see another opportunity to raise the sales tax if this happens to pass. So I just want to remind everybody about that. You may have your personal points of view and may think this is a great use of the sales tax. I don't. A sales tax on fuel, fine, and that was discussed and pushed aside because they knew that the people who sell and vend fuel would be opposed to that, and that would be a source of money. Whereas in this case, there's no source of money to fight this, and you'll see the road builders spending a whole lot of money over the next 6 weeks or so. So I would just urge you to think about that. I won't go so far as to urge you how to vote, but I think you understand the critical nature of this and the possible or definite negative downside of a lost opportunity for education should this pass. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions or anything anybody want to say for the good and welfare of the board? We have, next item on the agenda are two resolutions. And for these resolutions, I'd like Chancellor Lofton to meet me at the podium. As we've mentioned a couple of times today, this is the 175th year of our flagship campus here in Columbia, and we would like to present a resolution to the chancellor of this campus. And first of all, I would like to have Cindy read this resolution into the record, and then I'd entertain a motion and a second for approval.
Whereas the University of Missouri was established in 1839 with 900 Boone County residents donated in land and cash to establish the first public university west of the Mississippi River and the first state university in Thomas Jefferson's Louisiana Purchase territory. And whereas MU established the first civil engineering program west of the Mississippi River in 1849, the nation's first college of education at a public university in 1868, the world's first school of journalism in 1908, and Missouri's first and only College of Veterinary Medicine in 1946. And whereas MU started with a graduating class of 2 students in 1843 and has since become a global economic and scholarly powerhouse with an enrollment of 34,658 students and more than 271,000 living alumni worldwide. And whereas MU is both a land-grant university and the largest public research university in Missouri with a statewide mission of service to citizens, including extension programs that provide university resources and expertise to people in all 114 Missouri counties and the city of St. Louis. And whereas based on its quality of teaching, research, and scholarship, MU was invited to become a member of the prestigious Association of American Universities in 1908, joining 60 top-tier American universities. And whereas MU has 18 schools and colleges and offers 317 degrees and certificates, including 70 online options to help students reach their career and personal goals. And whereas MU's values of respect, responsibility, discovery, and excellence serve as the foundation of the university's mission of teaching, research, service, and economic development. And whereas MU's research expenditures have grown to more than $235 million annually. And whereas MU is known for its collaborative, interdisciplinary culture and has incomparable expertise on a global scale in food for the future, One Health, One Medicine, sustainable energy, and media of the future. And whereas MU educates 26% of undergraduates, 24% of master's students, 36% of first professionals, and 60% of doctoral students at Missouri's public institutions. And whereas with 6 hospitals, a school of medicine, a school of nursing, and a school of health professions, the MU health system is one of the most comprehensive healthcare networks in Missouri. And whereas Mizzou's more than 520 student athletes rank 2nd in the Southeastern Conference for academic progress rate. And whereas MU is a $2.1 billion enterprise that operates 24/7 and accounts for 71% of the research dollars flowing to Missouri's public universities, generating new knowledge and jobs to power the state and national economies. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Curators, on behalf of the students, faculty, staff, and alumni of the University of Missouri, and on behalf of the citizens of the state of Missouri, hereby adopts this resolution to honor the University of Missouri-Columbia for 175 years of extraordinary accomplishments as an institution of higher learning. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of the Board cause this resolution to be spread upon the minutes of this meeting, and that a duly inscribed copy thereof be furnished to Chancellor R. Bowen Lofton as representative of the entire MU community.
Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
I so move.
Second?
Cindy, please call the roll.
Curator Bradley?
Yes.
Curator Covington?
Yes.
Curator Cups?
Yes.
Curator Downing?
Yes.
Curator Good?
Aye.
Curator Henriksen?
Yes.
Curator Phillips?
Yes.
Curator Stewart?
Aye.
All votes in favor.
Congratulations. We have one other resolution. Yes. Anita. We have one other resolution, and then I'll turn over the podium to Chancellor Lofton if he'd like to say a few remarks. Next item on our agenda is approval of a resolution to honor our MU extension. This is its 100th year. Cindy, would you please read that resolution?
Whereas the Federal Morrill Act of 1862 led to the University of Missouri's status as a land-grant university in 1870, creating the College of Agriculture and Mechanic Arts, now the College of Agriculture, Food, and Natural Resources, and widening opportunities for a university education to all citizens. And whereas the United States Congress established the Cooperative Extension Service through the Smith-Lever Act in 1914, allowing universities to extend their services outside the classroom to citizens across the nation. And whereas the Smith-Lever Act set the framework for an educational partnership among federal, state, and local governments through land-grant universities. And whereas this partnership has benefited the state of Missouri for 100 years through MU Extension, a trusted resource that brings relevant, reliable, responsive, and research-based education to 1 million rural and urban citizens in all 114 Missouri counties and the city of St. Louis. Whereas MU Extension faculty have made 2.3 million personal contacts with citizens, helping strengthen families, businesses, and communities. And whereas MU Extension specialists offer solutions to complex issues by delivering integrated programs associated with educational attainment, environmental concerns, community, economic, business and workforce development, global food systems, and health systems. And whereas cooperative extension has made Missouri communities more sustainable and improved the quality of life for 282,000 youth through 4-H and programs for farmers, landowners, firefighters, business owners, managers, nurses, other professionals, community leaders, and families. And whereas MU Extension's mission is as relevant today as it was a century ago. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Curators, on behalf of the students, faculty, staff, and alumni of the University of Missouri, and on behalf of the citizens of the state of Missouri, hereby adopts this resolution to acknowledge the many achievements of MU Extension and the extension movement through the nation during this, its 100th anniversary year. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of the Board cause this resolution to be spread upon the minutes of this meeting, and that a duly inscribed copy therefore be furnished to Chancellor R. Bowen Lofton as representative of the entire MU community.
May I have a motion to approve this
So
resolution?
move.
Second.
Cindy?
Curator Bradley?
Yes.
Curator Covington?
Yes.
Curator Cups?
Yes.
Curator Downing?
Yes.
Curator Good?
Aye.
Curator Henriksen?
Yes.
Curator Phillips?
Yes.
Curator Stewart?
Aye.
Okay, all votes in favor.
Congratulations again.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you so much for these two resolutions. Briefly address number one, the 175th anniversary of the founding of the University of Missouri. I have great pride in being here this year as chancellor to be present at a milestone of this nature. This is not, though, simply a recognition of a moment. It's recognition of 175 years. You heard the particular whereases. This gives you a sense of tradition and history, but also of excellence and impact that few institutions in the world can claim. So think about that. You should feel pride as well. Behind me is someone who you may not know. Her name is Anita Hampton. She is the chair of the State Extension Council. And so she represents, in a sense, the customers, if you will, of Extension. She speaks for the entire state. These are elected people from their individual counties who go to region and then regional and then state level in terms of their support of Extension. And I want to give her a moment to reflect on the 100th anniversary of Extension. Anita?
As you know, I don't have a great deal of difficulty talking because I have worked with all of you so much. But not only do I want to reflect on our anniversary year, I want to reflect on the fact of the impact this university is making on the citizens for the state of Missouri through the Extension program. We have so many people out there that their lives are positively impacted by these programs. Last week before, I went to Jeff City. They had the Fire and Rescue Training Institute Summer Fire School going on. That was not just Missourians there. There was 15 or 18 states represented. They were making an impact not only in Missouri, but far-reaching. We have programs. This next week, we have a delegation that is coming from South Africa. As you all are aware, we have that collaboration with the University of Missouri and the University of Western Cape. I had the privilege of going there 2 years ago, and they're sending a delegation here next week. We're working on, this time, a volunteer leadership development program for them. We have worked on food security, water safety. We've had professor exchanges. We've had student exchanges. But we're having this delegation come over here this time because our director of Extension went to South Africa to just check in to see what was going on and how the Extension can help. This is being paid for by a grant through the State Department. And he went over there, and in this community, those people have just been tore apart because their families are being destroyed because of the AIDS epidemic that went through there. When their families have died, they went through apartheid, where families were segregated because blacks couldn't live with whites. Their husband was in one place, a wife was in another, children was in another, whole different area. This nation of theirs was in such turmoil. But when their families have died now from AIDS, the people that are remaining, they are taking these people out into the mountains when they get AIDS and can no longer take care of themselves, and they're dumping them. Their volunteers are not respected as they are here in the state of Missouri. People are considered to be reduced to volunteerism. Our challenge now is to go over there and help them figure out how to develop a volunteer leadership program that can help them strengthen their own communities and work to help improve their own lives. The work that Extension is doing is amazing, and I am so honored to be a volunteer for Extension and for the University of Missouri because of the impact that all of you are making upon our state, our citizens, and in all of our communities. Thank you very much for your support. I probably will go outside and shake a few moments now.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, on behalf of a grateful MU, we appreciate this recognition and pledge to you we are going to be there for you in 25 years when you do this again.
Thank you, Chancellor. Thank you, Anita. One thing I have to correct that the Chancellor said, I think he assumed that we didn't know Anita. But all of us, our first year on the board, Anita makes it a point that she introduces herself in a very good way. So we're very proud of Anita and everything that she and Extension does. Next item on our agenda would be the President's State of the University Address. President Wolf.
Good morning.
Morning.
I have the unique pleasure to discuss the accomplishments and progress that we made in this past year. And it's lots to brag about because we have done some significant things in this last academic calendar year. Historically, we did this conversation in the January board meeting, but we couldn't really reflect back on the full academic year. So that's why we're having this conversation at the June meeting where we can talk about the accomplishments for the entire academic year. I'll also give you a glimpse of what you can expect on a go-forward basis. What I'd like to start off this conversation by saying is the University of Missouri system that we all love is on very, very solid ground and is positioned to take advantage of the opportunities that are in the marketplace. What we talked about in this last resolution was the significant accomplishments that have occurred this year on the University of Missouri System 4 campuses. We talked about the 175th anniversary of our great flagship institution. We talked about the 100 years of extension. Chairman Downing talked about how everybody knows Anita. Well, I got to meet Anita during the search process. I was a candidate, and she was already making demands on my time because she was on the search committee that says, if you're hired, you will be with me within the first week, and you will learn about extension. And that just shows you the passion of Anita, as well as the passion and importance of extension, not only in the state of Missouri, but across our country, and the best practices that we have deployed in the United States, we're taking over to South Africa, which will be significant in improving the community and the quality of life in these cities and these citizens in South Africa that so need that. Also, we celebrated UMSL's 50th Jubilee, which was a fantastic celebration with lots of fireworks, lots of great representatives from the St. Louis community. Followed shortly thereafter, we had the celebration at UMKC that celebrated their 80th year of existence, where we reenacted the signing of the original documents, which was very historic, as well as they also were celebrating their 50th year as being part of the University of Missouri system. Lest you think I'll leave out S&T, we continue to celebrate St. Pat's Day in Raleigh in a very, very unique way, but some of the pictures from that aren't deserving of putting on the screen. But anyway, it is truly a remarkable celebration. And in fact, I got to participate as an honored knight and kiss the Blarney Stone, which was very, very much of a significant event in my life. We have also a historic moment down in Jeff City at our great capital. We started off this calendar year with our great governor talking about an increase in higher education and education in total that was significant. It was the most significant proposed increase of 5% for higher education, as well as full funding for the K through 12 formula. It was the most significant year-over-year recommendation by the governor since he's been in office. That was followed up with the General Assembly working very, very diligently and hard and recommending back to the governor a 5% increase in core appropriations, as well as $60 million plus in capital investments in higher education. We have the opportunity right now, to have the best year-over-year funding from our great state in 14 years, the best ever in 14 years. What Chairman Downing talked about is the risks associated with that funding model based on some tax policy that's being considered. But right now, we have never been more strongly positioned in Jeff City. Also, last year, we graduated 9,500 students, all-time high, 9,500 students took place in the year-end commencement activities. Also, when you look at the quality of our incoming freshman class, we had the highest grade point average, ACT average, in the history of the University of Missouri system at 25.7. We also are proud that we have the most diverse class representing underserved minorities that we've ever had on our 4 campuses. So I'm very proud of what we accomplished last year from a student perspective as well. In addition, last year we had some major events happen on our campus. We completed the geothermal project at S&T. What that means to S&T is that they will save $1 million a year on heating, cooling, and chilled water for their campus. In addition, as I understand from Chancellor Schrader, they have no more coal. They ran out of coal, and they have decommissioned the coal plant, so the carbon footprint obviously is improved dramatically on this particular project. In St. Louis, we participated in several groundbreaking activities. We have the Science Learning Center that is under construction. The Recreation and Wellness Center is coming along quite nicely. If you haven't been on campus recently, you need to go see it. It's magnificent. We're going to be breaking ground on the optometry clinic. And also the Great Streets Initiative is going to be started soon, which will give us an even more scenic entree into our UMSL campus. Here in Columbia, we celebrated the announcement that the Ellis Fischel Cancer Center, a very strong, well-renowned cancer center, becomes even stronger with the announcement of the partnership being the first academic health system as part of the MD Anderson Cancer Network. On our Kansas City campus this year, we opened the Millers Nichols Learning Center, which is an $18 million investment, as well as the Henry Block Executive Hall for Entrepreneurship and Innovation, both giving us the capacity to handle the needs and the growing quantity of students that we've got on our campus. Speaking of our growth of students, if you take a look at this chart, the red columns indicate the University of Missouri system's growth of full-time equivalent students. The blue columns next to that recognize the growth of full-time equivalent students for the rest of the 4 years in the state of Missouri. As you see in the last column, over the last 5 years, we have grown full-time equivalent students by 14%. The other institutions have grown by 1%. What that suggests to me is that our mission of serving all Missourians and giving an opportunity to every Missouri high school graduate to participate in a selective institution that has the academic standards that we have. We've kept our doors open. We haven't had to cap enrollment, and we continue to attract the best and the brightest from the state of Missouri as well as outside the state of Missouri. One of the reasons why we're attracting students is that we're meeting the needs of this changing demographic of high school students, high school graduates, as well as these students that are career-minded people that are coming back to get either their bachelor degree or master degree. What they are demanding of us as educators is to allow them to learn at their pace and their speed, and they happen to be more comfortable with technology than what we might have been when we went on to college. It is a marketplace, this online marketplace is expanding, and I'm happy to say that we're expanding at 3 times the rate of the market. We grow about 30% per year in terms of our online courses. We have over 1,400 online courses, over 100 degree programs across our 4 campuses. Just recently, it's within the last week, we announced a very, very exciting initiative where we're going to put $250,000 towards co-development, which is faculty members from at least 2 campuses working together at developing classes that will be shared amongst campuses. So we've invested in the development of those classes. We're also going to remove the major hurdle or obstacle in sharing, in that if you have a student on your campus and he or she takes an online class from another campus in the system, or obviously somebody outside the system, You don't get any revenue for that. Well, with these classes that we're developing, we are going to be sharing the revenue. So we've taken that hurdle away. And so what we're going to do is have more online classes and more collaboration and sharing between our campuses, which bodes well, again, for the students that we are trying to serve by coming up with online programs that meets the needs, that takes away that time and place dependency on education, because there are students that unfortunately have business and family and personal commitments that prohibit them from being at that 9 o'clock class or that 12 o'clock class or whatever. Plus, those classes might not be available to them as they plot out their future towards graduation, and online allows them to take that class at their place and at the time and speed that they would like to progress through that curriculum. With all these great accomplishments this year, we have opportunities to improve. You heard from Dr. Deborah Noble-Triplett on our progress relative to the mental health and sexual assault opportunity here. Let me talk a little bit more about what transpired. Obviously, the ESPN Outside the Lines expose opened our eyes. It forced us to take a look in the mirror and reflect about, are we doing enough? And I challenged the Board of Curators to hire outside counsel to look at the matters pertaining to Sasha Menyukori. I thank you, Board of Curators, for stepping up. At the same time, I challenged the chancellors. I would like you to prioritize that, identify leaders on your campus and resources to form the task force to really study where we are. I'm proud to say the chancellor stood up. Some institutions could have walked away from this. Some institutions could have deprioritized it. Some institutions could have defended their current position, not our institution. What we did was we came together from board to the leadership on our campuses. We've made considerable progress, and we will make considerable more in the future. This is in the category of a never-ending journey. We can never do enough to have a safe and secure environment for all our students and have a culture of respect that we need, and that is our goal. And we will be an exemplar in higher education on how to make sure that you have as much resources preventing issues, but in the unfortunate situation, if you do have an issue of sexual assault, harassment, or a mental health issue, that we know how to quickly respond and address that. In addition, you've heard a lot about strategic planning. It informs everything that we do. This brochure I take everywhere. Every time we're in a conversation, I open it up and reflect on how does this have to do with our strategic plan? How does it have to do with our themes, our priorities, and objectives? What we have done in the last year and a half has moved from planning our definition of where we're going and how we're going to get there to now reporting on our progress and our accomplishments. Our challenge now relative to strategic planning is how we can achieve these goals. Instead of achieving a goal in 4 years, how we can do it in a year or in 2 years. And one of the recent conversations I had with our internal auditor, PwC, rings true and brings home the point that the strategic planning is now in the DNA of everybody in the University of Missouri system, all employees. And here's the conversation. The PwC visits with the 4 campuses, the system, and the health system on an annual basis. They just got done with these visits, and these visits are a part about talking about risk and talking about what audit opportunities are. The PwC leadership team said to me, and I'll editorialize a little bit, but they said to me, something changed. And I said, what do you mean? He says, the conversations are now about strategic goals and priorities and productivity and goals, and something's changed. And I said, so what's your reaction? He said, keep doing what you're doing. Because now these audits, now these conversations of risk are about how do we achieve the goals that are defined in these strategic priorities and strategic plans. As you can see with the master planning that was presented by Chancellor Lofton, as well as the master planning that was presented by the other chancellors, everything relates back to the strategic plan. When we have conversations about budget, and we're asking questions about revenue, we're asking questions about allocation expense, it just reflects back to the strategic plan. So what it is, it's a unifying force for all of us to talk about what's important and making sure that our priorities are rendered explicitly. We now become more predictive, and we move with intent, shared intent, towards common goals. From a system standpoint, it's appropriate that we update you, the Board of Curators, and the public at large on what the system is doing and the progress against our strategic goals. We have 3 themes. The first theme that I'll give you an update on is about leveraging system resources to support campus unique strengths. This is how can we make sure that our 4 great campuses are successful, and their success is defined by achieving their goals that are defined in their strategies. And there are activities underneath this, levers underneath this theme, like improving research, improving student success, innovative instruction or online learning, attracting and retraining the best and the brightest in the industry. As you can see in this picture, we've got Hank Foley and Bowen Lofton. I think everybody would agree that we are attracting the best in the industry, and we were working collaboratively with the campuses on achieving these goals. Last board meeting, I put up these pretty colorful pie charts. For the first time, we have identified what our 8,000 very, very important staff people do by function. We have never been able to do that. This took 4 years of implementation of the global grading system under the great leadership of Vice President Rodriguez and the help of the leadership on the campuses. We now have visibility to how many people are performing in these functions. We also have visibility to where they are on the campuses. Now the question that we're asking ourselves is, do we have enough? Do we have too many? What you heard from Vice President Tom Richards was that we are talking about new approaches towards the finance function. So we've had significant movement and conversation about what is the most effective and efficient way to provide the necessary financial support for everything that we do. In addition to the finance function, we have an IT initiative along the same vein, which is what is the most efficient and effective way to organize our wonderfully talented IT resource in a way that we can be more nimble, agile, and responsive to the needs of the business. Lastly, the HR function, another major function. We have a study that's taking place right now that spans organizational boundaries of system and campus, taking a look at what is the optimal way to provide the necessary resource from an HR people standpoint to support the needs of the business. So we're going to continue, now that we have visibility to this, we're going to continue to rethink and ask ourselves how we can invest appropriately to drive the needs of the business. The needs of the business are clearly defined by the strategy statements that the president never leaves behind and carries around and continues to remind people of, because that is our roadmap towards future success. The other thing that we've spent time on, and you've heard from Vice President Rodriguez, is the task force that we put together that represented all our constituency groups, both internal and external, that has proposed some recommendations on how to holistically look at the total rewards. And the total rewards are not just the medical benefits, but it includes compensation, retirement, and wellness. And they've come up with creative ideas that allow us to meet the needs of our existing employees, but equally important is those potential employees that we want to bring into the University of Missouri system. And I'm excited about the implementation of these recommendations of the task force. Last year and a half, we have internally financed a lot of projects, a lot of construction projects. Over $150 million were approved by the board that are financed internally. And you can see some pictures of a few of those there. Also, again, thanks to the leadership of Tom Richardson team, we took a look at the $200 million of existing debt that we had, and the interest rates being unusually low. We took the opportunity to quickly refinance that $290 million in debt, and we realized $24 million of incremental cash that will be coming in over the next couple of years. That $24 million will be going right back into the huge backlog that we have in maintenance and repair, primarily in our E&G facilities, so that we can have the classrooms and labs necessary to graduate the students that the employers in our great state of Missouri so badly need. So lots of progress in the last year and a half from our finance team. Our second theme from a system standpoint is about collaboration and best practices. You heard from Vice President Allen on the Operational Excellence Initiative and what we're doing with ERP. We have crossed the hurdle in terms of we're not going backwards and business as usual is not an option. So we don't have any more debate about if we're going to do something. It's what are we going to do and when. We've got the clear plan in terms of coming up with a ERP system that is more agile, more nimble, and gives us the information and the best practices in which we can raise all boats. It is the backbone of everything that we do. We've got to get it right, and there is an opportunity to have a better ERP system, and we will deliver on that opportunity. Not only are we looking at our internal systems, we're looking at our student-facing systems. Here's another collaborative initiative that I'm proud to talk about. We, a year ago, put aside a couple $1 million to fund the retention initiative. The retention initiative is important to all 4 campuses. We collectively share in the need to increase retention dramatically from where we are right now. By the way, when you compare us to our peers, we're pretty strong. It's one of the 5 performance metrics that the governor has challenged all higher education institutions with, and we have achieved that goal as compared to our peer group. But what this application does is we have one solution implemented across all 4 campuses. We now have, for the first time, a scheduler, course scheduler for students. So now that they can online map out what the requirements are for them to get from current point to graduation, with the purpose to reduce time to graduation and cost to graduation. Also, it's now a one-stop shop for students as well as other people that are interested in academic and student support services. And it also provides an early alert system to faculty and advisors identifying those students that are slipping or falling off. And those early alerts come in the form of if they've had a bad homework quiz, test, or happen to be off the path towards graduation. It gives them an alert back to an advisor, and that initiates a reach out to that advisor. Our goal is to have 100% retention of our students, and we will stop at nothing short of 100%. So that's what we're going to continue to work towards. You also heard that we have changed the intellectual property rules, which now, as it pertains to doing research with industry or businesses, it's now up to the faculty member. We put the power in the faculty member's hands to guide us towards whether or not we should own the intellectual property based on the research that they're doing with industry. It is badly needed. It is a best practice. Industry and businesses are coming towards us because of this change in our intellectual property. What that means is we're going to close the gap between us and business, and they will be funding more of our research on a go-forward basis. Our last and final theme from a system standpoint is the advocacy for higher education. We spent a lot of time in Jeff City and across the state. It's paying off, I believe, is if you can connect this data point from a year-over-year funding standpoint. We are projected to have funding of 5.2%, and the additional 0.2% comes from achieving 5 out of 5 performance metrics. As you can see over time, it's the best in 14 years. So it's also, we're encouraged that the governor will support that, but obviously the challenge is that some of this tax legislation offers to general revenue makes this decision more difficult than we'd like it to be. The other thing that we're encouraged about is House Bill 2021, which is the 50-50 project. Just giving you a little bit more history, as the governor put this into statute by signing it about a year ago. It gives you the opportunity for the state to match funds raised by private donation. We quickly went after this and raised over $30 million for the 5 projects that you see here on the screen. The total investment, if the state decides to match, and we dearly hope that they do, would be a $212 million capital investment, which actually Chairman Downing talked about 100 jobs. The actual estimate for us is 2,000 total jobs out of this project. So we have our friends, we have our investors in this, business leaders and individuals that invest in it. We have our friends calling in to the governor's office trying to express the importance of this. This gives us the necessary capacity short-term to educate the students that we need to provide to employers, as well as gives us the research capacity to do the much-needed research, and lastly, produce the STEM students that are in most demand. So it's important. And we also have the Bill 723, which is the bonding or financing for LAFRI, that's equally as important as the 50-50 project. So we're encouraged. If you haven't reached out to your political leader or to the governor, I'd ask you to do that immediately. Next week is a difficult week for the governor. He has to make difficult decisions. We hope that this is prioritized. Also this year, as it pertains to getting the message out and communicating, the New York Times last month had an article that was titled, "Is College Worth It?" Clearly new data says it. I think David Leonhardt, the writer of this New York Times article, must have been at a Show Me Value tour, because we've been saying this for a year. He finally listened and finally wrote an article. But if you see in the yellow on this, let me read this quote of this article, for those of you that are in the back of the room. "Yes, college is worth it, and it's not even close." And that is reality. And the fortunate situation is I've had the good fortune in the last year to spread the good news and reality about the value and worth of college to 14 stops. You've heard about where they were. We have thousands and thousands of students that we've talked to, as well as we've met with business leaders and civic leaders at each one of the stops. I'm proud to say that we're going to continue this up in the fall. Again, it's a bunch of fun. We'll ask chancellors to help us out on some of these locations, and we'll continue to invite board members as well as other leaders in the community to participate in these great events. And it is working, and it's working because middle schools are coming to us and asking us to come and do this again. In addition, this messaging and communication is enhanced and expanded this year. In front of you, you have the first copy of the Spectrum magazine. The Spectrum magazine intent was to educate the public at large, because that is our mission, to serve all 6 million Missourians, to educate the public at large at what the University of Missouri system does for their community, for the state, and for them individually. In this great 60-page plus magazine, you'll see wonderful articles about extension, about research, about what we do in the community. We have 2 covers. We have the rural cover, and then we have a technology cover, and we are sending out thousands, I think, how many, 30,000? 60,000. We're sending out 60,000 copies of this. I know it's gone out because I've already gotten a call about this magazine. And it's a very, very nice piece. What's also interesting about the Spectrum magazine is Missouri 100 members paid for this. So we're not using general revenue dollars for this. We have wonderful partners of the University of Missouri system in the Missouri 100, and their membership dues went towards the payment of this wonderful magazine. It is going back to the communities that I visited on the Show Me Value tour. It's going to all the extension offices, rural communities. It's going to all the legislators and other constituency groups. And so far, so good in terms of the reaction that we're getting to this wonderful publication. If you'd like extra copies, I think we could find a few more for you out of the 60,000. But we're very, very excited about this. And this is the kind of constant drumbeat that we have to use in our great state of Missouri. So let me summarize where we are. As I said up front, our beloved university is on solid ground. I would suggest that the University of Missouri system has never been more accountable and transparent. We've always had accountability measures, or at least since Gary Forsey's leadership, where he implemented accountability measures and transparency. I continued on the great momentum that Gary set, but our accountability and transparency now comes in the form of, if you read our strategy statements, it's very clear to anybody that's interested in the University of Missouri system. It's clear where we're going, how we're going to get there, how we'll measure when we get there, the time in terms of where we achieve those goals. All these questions are answered in the strategic statement. And we're also, with the dashboards that we took you through in a previous board meeting, are reporting out our progress against those key goals. We also are challenged with time, and we're trying to achieve this success much faster. Next week, at our annual retreat of the general officers of the University of Missouri System, we are going to talk about collaboration for common good, which is how can we look externally at the industry, recognizing the trends, shifts in demographics, the challenges, the headwinds that we look at from an industry perspective. How can we come together recognizing those industry challenges and respond or capitalize on those opportunities? In addition, we're going to take a look at all of our strategic plans and all those actions, which, as you saw from Vice President Allen, that's the external or outer circle of all the actions and levers. We're going to consolidate those across the 4 campuses in the system, and we're going to ask ourselves, as we all work at these very important actions and these levers, is there a different approach that we could work collectively and collaboratively on those opportunities? We have dollars that I've set aside as part of the expected incremental 5.2% from the state. It's over $2 million that we're going to set aside to fund those collaborative initiatives that come out of the planning session next year. Also, that funding has been reserved for the investment that I committed on behalf of the Sexual Assault and Mental Health Task Force. So we will raise all boats as part of this conversation and have more actions that we'll collectively work on and won't have to change the existing actions and levers. We just come together on working those as well. In the last Board of Curators meeting, I challenged our entire leadership team to think about not just how we compare to higher education, but how we compare to industry. And we're going to continue on that path in terms of looking at industry best practices relative to the application of our important support resources to our mission. Chairman Downing talked about Kansas dragging us into a race for the bottom. It will be over my dead body if we win this race. We will not win this race. Sorry, we will not win this race. And I'm encouraged by the conversation that we're having with the political leaders and other business leaders in our great state of Missouri. I believe the light is getting brighter on our path towards economic prosperity, our path towards a better quality of life, our path towards a more competitive state is grounded in education. People are starting to recognize this. And as they recognize it, they will invest and put their resources and attention appropriately. So I'm encouraged that the state of Missouri will not race to the bottom, but race to the top. Lastly, our strategic planning process is working. We're staying the path. We're moving with intention, within speed. We're talking about the same topics and the same priorities. And I believe that we are very, very well positioned to take advantage of the opportunities in the marketplace. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity to lead this incredible institution. Thank you very much.
Our final item on our agenda, public agenda, is a motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Is there a second? Cindy?
Curator Bradley?
Yes.
Curator Covington? Yes. Curator Cupps?
Yes.
Curator Downing?
Yes.
Curator Good?
Aye.
Curator Henriksen?
Yes.
Curator Phillips?
Yes.
Curator Stewart?
Aye.
Okay. All votes in favor.
Thank you. If you are the leader, press star now. Please enter your
We have
leader
3
here,
chairs here.
followed by the pound or hash sign.
2 mics.
To start or join your conference, press 1. To change default conference options, press 2. To start or join your conference, press 1. To change default conference options, press 2. To start or join your conference, press 1.
Okay.
Conference options, press 2.
Get that off.
I'm sorry, but your entry is not valid. Please hang up and try connecting to the conference again. Goodbye.